Our second panel is about Lebanon's investors. Maurice Sahnawi, Marwan Khaireddin, Maroun Shamas, Henri Assaili, and Walid Hanna will share with us their experience in investing in Lebanon. Thank you.
Unfortunately, it's me again. I apologize, everybody. I'll try not to be too boring, hang out with you. So, are we missing one person? Here we go, right. Okay. Couple more. I do so love running massive panels. Right, Samer, tell me how long I've got for this. Okay. So now we're going to be talking about money. Money, money, money makes the world go round. So we have a number. We got investors and we got bankers. So let's start. Introduce yourself. It's going to be much easier if you do it yourself. So your name and one sentence about what you're doing. Go.
I'm Henry Assaili. I'm senior entrepreneur and managing partner at Leap Ventures.
Hello, Maurice Sahnawi, BLC Bank.
Marwan Khaireddin, Mawarid Bank.
Maroun Shamas, entrepreneur and CEO of Beritech.
Walid Hanna, managing partner of Middle East Venture Partners, MEVP.
So let's just talk about maybe a bit of chronological order. 5 years ago, there had been no such announcements as 331, the Circular 331, which has put pumping money into the ecosystem right now, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Where did we come from 5 years ago, and you know, where are we heading? What do you think?
10 years ago, or actually 12 years ago, the St. Joseph University started an initiative called Beritech. And the idea was to keep Lebanese people, young Lebanese talent in Lebanon instead of them leaving the country. So they started with the idea of starting the incubator, which is Beritech. And throughout those years, the Beritech ecosystem grew from one incubator and one accelerator to 3 sites. And from a fund that started in 2008, a small fund. And the idea was to try to see if instead of Lebanon being just consumers of electronics and consumers of technology, if we can be producers. Because we felt that there was a lot of talent. And after, I guess, 6 years, 7 years, we can say that, yes, the first fund gave its fruit and we invested in 15 companies and we're going to be talking about it.
Would anyone on the panel agree that that experiment worked?
Definitely. I mean, it has worked without a doubt, but definitely much more needed to be done. And hence, you know, this whole space is developing and it's mushrooming. So it's still small, but it is growing. It requires that every player, every stakeholder in this space do more. However, if you had asked me the question, I would have answered that 10 years ago, any entrepreneur with a great idea out of Lebanon would have had to go outside Lebanon to find funding, to find support, to find coaching, to find anything that would make their idea prosper and develop. Today, we have all the building blocks that are required to give opportunities to those entrepreneurs to develop locally, from the most important one being the funding, and that is a monumental, huge thing. Like every entrepreneur knows that the biggest hurdle that they have is not coming up with ideas, is not coding their ideas into programs, is not trying to market their ideas or knowing how to market their ideas. It is money. Money that keeps them going, money that fuels their growth, money that allows them to pay the rent, etc., etc. And that has been, a huge step has been taken in that direction that allowed banks, and for the first time in our history, to play the role of investors as opposed to lenders. So today, and for the first time in Lebanon's history, a bank is allowed to own shares in a company and take a risk on that company developing. That was not the case in the past.
This is not the culture that's well known here, is it? Because most of the banks are retail banks, or they're not investment banks, correct?
Sure, they're mostly commercial banks. But I'd like to add something about this. Banks investing in funds is not very new. Now, Circular 331 boosted this whole thing and multiplied the amounts. Our first fund included 2 banks. Our second fund, which is Building Block Equity Fund, included 7 banks. These were small amounts. I mean, the whole fund was really small at the end of the day. Now we're talking about much bigger amounts. Our third fund is $63 million with 12 banks, thanks to Circular 331.
So let's fast forward. We've got some historical perspective now. So there's money being pumped into the ecosystem in a sort of public cash sense. You've got banks taking that on board. Do we want banks to continue to do that? You guys are doing this. You're investing in funds. You've invested in MEVP, yes, and Berytech.
Yes, we have, in both of them.
Is that something you're going to continue to do? Are you going to change your strategy going forward? What's your feeling?
As a bank, we've decided to split our investments into 2. Direct investments into companies, and we were leading. We led this whole 331 effort, and we invested in a company that has a huge promising future. It's called Prisella. They're here with us. We also invested with Alt City, which is an incubator accelerator, to create a program with universities to increase the deal flow into the ecosystem. So we will continue doing that as direct investments, but we have more funds than we can invest directly, and we've decided to invest those excess funds into funds like Berytech, like MEVP.
So, right, so who have we got? We've got, I mean, by the way, everyone, I hope you're realizing the dress sense going on here. We've got sneakers. So we've got early stage investors in sneakers. And
late stage.
The bankers, and late stage. There's late stage guys in sneakers, the growth fund. We've got the bankers in suits and ties, and we've got the VC in a jacket and jeans. Now, this is the uniform, obviously, of the investment community, so I'm quite glad to see that. Oh, I forgot. And they've got the journalist wearing the leather jacket. Marvelous. But come on, we can't stop here, right? Because there's got to be more funds than just say in early stage like 2. There've got to be more early stage funds. There needs to be more competition. If I was an entrepreneur in Lebanon and I was going, right, I want to get some real competition for my startup. I want to get term sheets. I want to get investors fighting over my company. And I have got like a couple of options. How are we going to get competition into the marketplace?
I don't think it's a couple of options. I think it's much more than a couple of options, actually.
Sure.
You have at least 3 serious funds that are operating based on international standards. You have 70 banks in the sphere of banking that could be potential investors, in addition to all
But then most of them aren't investment banks, as we've heard.
No, but you don't need to be an investment bank. Let me clarify that point. Any and every commercial bank in Lebanon has the right, under 331, to invest in the share equity of startups in the knowledge economy. So you have potentially at least 70 banks that you can target with your business plan, show them your business plan, to try to get funding and to try to compete, to have people with money compete. There's a lot of mention that maybe $400 and some million are not enough. Well, that $480 million came systematically from 331, from the memo that was issued by the central bank, where the central bank decided that 3% of the equity of banks could be invested in the knowledge economy. In accordance with certain guidelines.
Okay.
Let me just finish that.
So
when we're done, when we've invested the 480 million, there's nothing that says that we cannot go to the central bank and say, Mr. Central Bank, we've been successful. This is how we've deployed the money. Why don't you increase that 3% to 6%? And the chances are they will be supportive of that and they will increase it. So the issue is not funding. Funding, Lebanon, the Central Bank of Lebanon,
So you
has
think there's
resolved
plenty-
the issue of funding.
You think there's plenty of money, and you think
Plenty
there's
of money.
plenty
Now
of
we need the
competition.
entrepreneurs to become hungry enough to come and search for the money, to come and ask us to
Right,
deploy that money.
would you agree?
Okay, I'd like to say something with regards to banks investing in startups, with all due respect. I mean, banks are used to giving out debt, commercial loans, you know, and we do equity funding. We do startups, they do mature companies with cash flows. We do technology, and they have no idea how to invest in technology. So what I believe is that you cannot go to a bank or to 70 banks and pitch for funding.
Yeah,
You have to go to the
other thing
investment
is,
professionals.
entrepreneurs don't just want money, they want access to networks and expertise. Now, your average bank manager wouldn't know what Snapchat was if it came up and hit them on the head. So what, or any other kind of technology play. So surely, I mean, I'll take your point that there's access to funding. The question is whether or not there's access to knowledge and expertise. What do you think, Henry?
Well, I've been an entrepreneur. I've raised a lot of money. I've came back here. I've invested a lot of money personally, and I've started the LEAP Fund, which is a growth stage fund with hopefully a lot more money to invest in growth companies. I've also raised money here as well for some of my companies, and there is no shortage of money when you know how to pitch something and you have a product that's very interesting. The problem is twofold. The first problem is most entrepreneurs don't know how to pitch their product. The second problem is most investors are not knowledgeable enough to really understand the product that's being pitched. So at some point, either the entrepreneur needs to be very good at explaining what he's talking about, or the investor needs to be very good at filling the holes that the entrepreneur has in his pitching and his business development process, et cetera, et cetera. So that's really the real problem.
Because what I was getting, the impression I was getting was that you guys are just sitting there waiting for entrepreneurs to come running through the door, and you want masses of deal flow, but there are still some weak points in the ecosystem, right?
Mike, if we take it from the start, okay, Henry, what he's saying that yes, in order to get money, you have to have a good story to tell. So what we're doing right now is constructing the whole ecosystem, from the accelerator phase, from the incubation to the accelerator, to for the entrepreneurs to understand how to build a business plan, for entrepreneurs to learn how to pitch, for entrepreneurs to know what's a marketing plan, what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. What we've seen so far for the past few years, good ideas, but bad execution sometimes. What we've seen so far, good ideas, bad team so far. So it's the whole learning curve. Don't forget that what we're doing today, if we're doing it professionally, we have to start from scratch and build a step at a time. Now, what we're happy about is that, first of all, the central bank took control over this big thing, which is entrepreneurship and investment and startups. Before, there was some good ideas about ministers and government and the government, but there was no central focal point. Today, when you look at all these people coming here, you feel the positive vibe. You feel that these are serious people, eager to succeed. You feel that these people have a story to tell. They want to be successful. They want to make millions. Obviously, they cannot make millions overnight. They have to be prepped. They have to learn the way to get there. So the whole ecosystem, you mentioned earlier in your previous panel, you mentioned about organizations such as Bader and Life and Endeavor and so on. All these are part of the ecosystem to help the entrepreneur get to the stage where he can positively and surely go to either banks or go to funds and say, I have, in all confidence, I have a story to tell, I have a great product, I have a good team, I've thought out my business plan, it has been validated, and I'm here to take your money because it's going to be a good investment. So basically, this is what we're doing.
Sure.
Hala a while ago mentioned that we're behind 20 years. Okay, but we're going to leapfrog because we're going to do this very fast.
It's still early days, but there are a lot of positive things happening on the horizon. I mean, I noticed that you said that yesterday that there was an exit, a company is called Shahir,
yes,
that exited $13.5 million.
Walid will talk about it. It's one of his portfolio companies.
I mean, this is a very encouraging move, isn't it? It's not a large exit, but it means that what's going to happen is you'll get that recycling of money into the ecosystem.
Absolutely. In order for a venture capital cycle to complete, you need startups and you need investments and you need exits. Now, the beauty of this Shahia exit is that first it's a lady CEO with 3 male partners. So please, ladies, you have to become entrepreneurs because Hala is a millionaire now. The second thing is that they started with a kafalat loan. And that, again, is something we have in Lebanon we're very proud of. And a $500,000 investment, and that's it. The company was sold to a Japanese listed company. It's listed, it's a public company in Japan. They do exactly the same, online cooking recipes, and it was sold to $13.5 million with only $500,000 worth of investments. We multiplied our money by 6 in 2 years, 2.2 years. So that's 130% IRR. So it's a great achievement. Yes.
But the acquirers, the acquisitions market, I mean, in Britain we often talk about the fact that there should be far more acquisitions going on. In the US, of course, acquisitions happen in a sense as acqui-hires. People are buying companies basically to acquire the team. Where can the acquisitions come from in the Middle East and in Lebanon?
The acquisitions will most probably come from international companies that are not Lebanese that have the resources to acquire those companies. You can acquire a company for $10 million. I expect to acquire Lebanese companies for hundreds of millions of dollars, if not more. That is doable. But for a Lebanese company to be able to do that, it needs to be big enough. It needs to be big enough, which means it needs to look outside the Lebanese market. It needs to be either in the MENA region or global. It might pursue a strategy of growth through acquisitions as well, as long as it's got the money. So there's a big issue of having significant amounts of money for these companies to get to the next stage, to get to the stage where they can be worth hundreds of millions of dollars, where international companies will then look at the market and say, I want to enter MENA, here's a company that's done it, that has consolidated all of the market, I'm just going to go buy it, I'm done.
Can I add to this,
yeah,
please? We've invested in 25 companies throughout the region, okay? 60% are in Lebanon. So we look at the region, we look at Amman, Dubai, Cairo, etc. And we've seen the exits that are happening there. And I don't see why Lebanese companies will not have the same exits. I mean, we've seen exits from American hedge funds or Turkish companies buying gaming companies. We've seen South African media group like Naspers investing in 2 companies in the MENA. And now we're seeing a Japanese listed company. And come on, who would have expected a Japanese listed company to come in and acquire a Lebanese SAL? This proves that the model works. So acquisitions will happen internationally, but I would look more into the Gulf. We've done, out of 25 companies, we've done 17 co-investments, most of which are with GCC-based investors, like the MBC Media Group. They co-invested with us in 3 companies. Mobily, it's a telco in Saudi. They invested in one of our companies. And we have like 10 other GCC-based companies investing in our own companies.
What are the strengths going forward of kinds of companies? I've heard it characterized to me that Lebanon is a fantastic generator of culture and of content and creativity. It's both a gateway into the Middle East and also a way to expand internationally for Middle Eastern companies. What kind of strengths do you see? Do you have strengths in gaming or enterprise, or are there any particular trends that you see across the board, or what?
Well, first of all, Lebanon is a very small, tiny market, okay? We cannot be very picky by saying, I just want to invest in this vertical.
Yeah.
We invest in the whole spectrum of information and communication technologies. Yes, from gaming to payment to, I mean, we've done the whole thing, content, music streaming, portals, we've done it all. And enterprise, by the way. We have 4 B2B enterprise softwares. So yes, Lebanese are creatives. They say Jordanians are good in logistics, Egyptians are scientists. Definitely, Lebanese are creatives.
We like to invest in things that we can bring added value to. When we invest in a company, we want to be able to say, look, we know this and that, we can bring you a lot of added value, we can push your business much faster. We will probably not invest in things we do not understand. Although we are allowed, we can invest in the whole of what we call the knowledge economy, which is a very vast space where we'll probably invest only in things that we can add value to.
I hear there's a company called Poo is that right? It's done 100 million downloads so far. Being pretty good. Maurice, I'm going to ask you a question. So apparently you were a famous race car driver. Is that
I'm
correct?
sorry,
An
my
amazing
English.
rally driver, definitely.
Amazing
I vouch
rally
for that.
driver.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you, if a young entrepreneur came to you and said,
He still drives in a crazy way, by the way.
okay,
Just for info.
if a young entrepreneur came to you and said, I have a way of making a Tesla into a Formula One car, or I understand automotive startups, is that something you would be excited by?
I am very sorry, my English is poor, so I understand half of what you say. So I understand you are talking about car racing.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's not the subject, even if I was concerned by it before. It's not the subject today.
Not the subject today, no, but I meant was the technology. Because cars
technology.
now are computers.
Technology. Let's go where I am here for. There is an event which is the Dell Accelerator, which come from an idea, a strong idea, which I share at least, which is that Lebanese human resources or Lebanese had something to play on this ground of new technology, of knowledge, of digital economy. And because they are rich, they are well educated, and compared to all what happened around us, we are very good or excellent. So it had to be introduced somewhere, somehow, somewhere. Already there is some fund which work on it before they are on there. They were successful, and we have to thank them because they was before us as banks now. But the BDL came with this strong idea, which the governor explained yesterday, I think very clearly at least, which was that Lebanon in the world as an economy, what is the meaning of this economy? So we have to see what we can offer on a biggest level than Lebanon as a market. So we have the fuel and gas coming, we have the banks, which are successful, and we have the capacity of our human resources in this field, which is a new economy of digital. So he tried, and I hope will succeed, to bring the bank to give the necessary equity to the fund or directly to the startup. So he created this circular which give a big amount of money, not enough perhaps in the future, but enough now, to help to find equity for this startup. Let's call them like that. It can be called something else, entrepreneur, whatever it is, SMEs. So we are just starting as banks to play in this ground. So we have two, as Marwan explained, two ways, or we go to the funds, or we do it directly. So on my
Let me ask you
side,
one
I do
question.
it on the both sides.
Let me ask you one question. Are you excited?
Yes, for one reason, because from long time, I believe when I was in university already, that Lebanese skills is very high. And suddenly somebody which had the capacity to traduce it is a central bank, he do it. So he bring commercial bank to equity, which is not obvious at all. So I am excited, yes.
I'll take that as a yes. You are excited. Brilliant. Now, you were saying earlier that, that there's, okay, let's say there's money available, there's an entrepreneur can't raise 50 grand from his uncle and auntie, then they're an idiot. They need to go and get some execution. We need execution, 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 right? If we cannot have internet companies without the internet, without broadband, correct?
Absolutely. You mentioned something. There is, in my opinion, today, there has to be a call of conscience. We cannot go on like this for the next 6 months, even. Lebanon is taken hostage, unfortunately, by whatever it is that's happening. It's like a wall that no one can touch. And this is absolutely crazy. Now, unless, and Minister Sahnawi mentioned, and we don't want to turn this into a political debate, but people have the right to the digital economy. People have the right to internet access. They have the right. It's an obligation from the government. It's an obligation from the ministries, from the Prime Minister to the whole cabinet, to the Minister of Telecom, who had just last week, I mean, at the beginning of the week, actually, Tuesday, a meeting with the ISPs and the DSPs concerning that subject. And I think that he now realizes the ampler and the magnitude of the problem. It's time to act. We cannot just wait and wait longer. Hala said we don't want to take baby steps.
Who here wants a complete explosion of internet access and high bandwidth in Lebanon today? Right? Right. You guys have got the ideas. You're ready to go, right? Yeah. Jeez.
Mike,
let's sort this out.
One thing, in a country with normal, good broadband, okay? Not one like Lebanon where you have this block at this stage. In a country that has normal broadband, if you double the broadband speed, you increase GDP by 0.6%, okay? Well, think about what would happen to Lebanon that has this block right now, and if you simply doubled an already pathetic internet connectivity.
Just with one thing. Exactly.
You know, I mean, I think it is warranted to mention that the single biggest hurdle facing entrepreneurs is any and everything that the government of Lebanon handles. I was in government. I know exactly the stupid bureaucracy that any and everything that you want to do will go through. It is a system that is designed to fail. It is not a system that is designed to work. You mentioned the Director General of the telecom industry. I personally do not know of any one single person that has stopped economic growth as much as this person has, knowingly or unknowingly. Knowingly or unknowingly. I have not in my lifetime seen a person that occupies two positions that are supposed to be controlling or complementing one another. I have not seen any person that writes letters to himself. He does. Now, I don't, again, want it to turn into a political debate. I do not want to turn it into a political debate. But what I want to say is that although this is a significant task, monumental task that we need to do in order to get this person to turn on faster internet, we have other issues as well when it comes to our legal legal framework. Our commercial law was written in the 1930s and not amended since. You cannot have a board of directors that is composed of independent directors because every single director needs to be a shareholder. You do not have the concept of having different classes of shares. You do not have the concept of limited partnership and general partnership, LPs and GPs. So a lot needs to be done. All we're saying in this panel is that 5 years ago, we had very little. Today, we have quite a lot, not enough, but quite a lot. And it requires every single one in that space to be taking the thing forward positively without necessarily creating side wars, because side wars in Lebanon, in politics, block. If you start a side war, it will block whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. There needs to be consensus among everyone that this is important for Lebanon and the Lebanese and the economy. I mean, we have not managed yet to agree that electricity is important in Lebanon. You know, we have not managed. So maybe we can agree on internet.
Well,
maybe we can agree on the internet.
Well, I hope that the politicians take note of the atmosphere and feeling in the room about this important issue. Let's hope and pray that they listen and take on board the serious business people and entrepreneurs who want to contribute to the economy. Let's hope that they sort it out, that they fix those issues, that they come to their senses, and perhaps one in particular individual disappears and goes and does something else.
Even if they don't,
and
there's a complete separation between private sector and public sector in
Right.
Lebanon. And we're trying to thrive independently. I mean, startups are happening. And they're growing, and they're becoming MENA market leaders out of this
Exactly.
tiny country. Seriously, I mean, internet is slow, it's expensive, I know. But startups are still succeeding even with this hurdle.
Let's say, Walid, that there is a consensus that if the ground works,
Of course it will help. Of
it
course,
will
of
be
course.
much better for everyone.
Of
And
course, I
instead
agree.
of being,
Let's not find excuses to
of course,
fail.
of course, we
We're
all agree on
succeeding
that.
even with those hurdles.
We all agree on that. But let's make also the infrastructure and the possibilities happen. We don't just want to block things and say, okay, you have to pass these hurdles. I think we've said enough about this point anyways.
I should have. Were you going to say something? Yeah.
Well, you don't want to keep horse-drawn carts when you have cars just because you don't want to pave the roads.
Exactly.
I'd like also to mention that there are a general interest of countries, not just Lebanon, but outside countries, European community that is helping a lot into that field.
Yeah.
The US, the Obama administration had a plan for the next 5 years for the region for $120 million. Lebanon has pitched, similar to Jordan and Sudan and Egypt and so on. And we got $15 million for the next 5 years for 3 components. About $5 million for matching investment, $5 million for guaranteeing investments, and $5 million for technical assistance. So, and just to let you know, the process with the American administration started back in July, and Lebanon was, among all the countries, was the first to sign and complete all the documentation and everything. So it shows you the eagerness of Lebanese people. It shows you that Lebanese people are always on the forefront when it comes to being, aggressive into those fields.
Fantastic. So let's assume that some of these problems so the infrastructure issues do eventually get sorted, and perhaps we have better corporate law, better regulation, better understanding of the roles of independent directors, limited partners, etc. Where do you see things going? Where do you want to be in the next 5-10 years?
Myself?
Yeah.
Well, I would like to be a fund manager with $500 million worth of assets under management, if you ask me. No, but I'd like to be able to prove that venture capital works in Lebanon and the region, because we're Middle East venture partners, not only Lebanon venture partners. But we're very keen, because I'm Lebanese myself. Our base is Lebanon. But I'm very proud to say that out of Lebanon, we're one of the most active venture capitalists in the region, in the whole region, seriously. You have to start by showing success from your home country. And that's why this Shahia exit, it's an SAL company. This is a testimonial of how a startup can grow and become, and prove this venture capital model.
Mike, can I add something?
Yeah.
The BDL circular, it glued everything together. And I can assure you that the whole ecosystem, and although we compete somewhere, the funds compete somewhere, we know that we have a responsibility of success, okay? The entrepreneurs, they have their share. They have to also be successful. We have our share. Because this is going to be the next 5 to 10 years possibility for growth of Lebanon and for keeping our engineers, our youth, all of the people and all the economy to thrive. That's the only way for Lebanese people to stay here, is to use their knowledge instead of going outside and working for multi companies and corporations.
Reverse the brain drain. And we've been doing that, by the way. Out of our first 5 investments in this impact fund, which is a Circular 331 compliant fund, 2 of them are companies from the US with Lebanese entrepreneurs that we've managed to bring back to Lebanon to incorporate an SAL, recruit people, have a back office, develop their product out of Lebanon, but continue doing their business development and sales globally. So this reversing of this brain drain is happening, and it's working thanks to the central bank.
And success has no color, no religion, and no political party. So entrepreneurs, this is why the Lebanese community is strong. The entrepreneurship Lebanese community is strong because they all want success. And we are part of it. We want to be part of it.
Do you think that there is that you're building a growth fund? Do you think that in 5 years' time there'll be some companies that you'll be able to invest in a growth manner?
No, I don't want to invest in 5 years. I want to invest now so that in 5 years we've got billion-dollar exits, so that the youth, as Maroon was saying, is thinking here, well, there's a very big sector that I can get into that's very exciting. I want to see the Sequoias of the world, the indexes of the world coming to Lebanon to actually invest, to look at those, at that market and to say, this is our entry into a 400 million person market in the MENA region. That's what I want to see, and I think that's totally feasible.
You ask about 5 years. Where do we want to be in 5 years? I think 5 years in this space is a long time. I can tell you what one initiative is trying to do in 2 years, and that is the UK Lebanon Tech Hub, where I am a board member. I sit on their board. We're trying to get some 45 companies coached immediately or very quickly. We're launching in January to identify 15 out of the 45, again, in a relatively short period of time, and with the help of experts in the UK, including the UK government, have at least 2 exits within a 2-year period on the London Stock Exchange. So that is one initiative that is happening that aims at exiting, having a full cycle, including an exit on the London Stock Exchange within 2 years.
Mike,
Right.
there is also an initiative that, just to show you that, the whole group is taking part of, actually all the people around here, which is an accelerator called Speed. Speed will be announced very shortly. We've constituted that accelerator, and it's part of an initiative under also 331, which it starts with a competition. The competition and then turns into teams that we select, and those teams will go to Silicon Valley after 6 months. And we invest in those companies, and we pay the people, we pay them to come and start their work. So the whole thing is taking place, and I think that we're really now, if you come next year, and hopefully there's going to be a bigger event next year, you're going to ask us the same questions, and we're going to show you results. And this is what counts, results.
Right. Exactly. Well, I certainly look forward to seeing more results. I'm sure we'll hopefully also have more diversity on the panel, gender diversity. So, but thank you very much, guys, and good luck.